The Mineral Washington Murders is a chilling tale of tragedy and mystery that unfolded in the remote community of Mineral, Washington in 1985. This case, more commonly known as the Tube Sock Murders, has lingered as one of the most perplexing unsolved mysteries for decades. Join me for a ride through strange and mysterious here at Odd Mysteries Stories. But why the peculiar name? It's all due to the bizarre circumstances surrounding these deaths. Imagine a serene town nestled amidst the breathtaking landscapes of Washington state, where tranquility is shattered by a series of gruesome murders. Two victims, discovered with tube socks tightly bound around their throats, became the eerie symbols of this heinous crime spree. In this video, I'll share the depths of this unsolved mystery, exploring the mysterious events that unfolded in Mineral. Let's begin this story on August 10th, 1985, with 27-year-old Stephen Harkins and his girlfriend, 42-year-old Ruth Cooper. They set out on a weekend camping trip to Tall Lake in Yelm, just south of Tacoma. Accompanied by Stephen's faithful dog, they set out for what they hoped would be a peaceful getaway in the wilderness. However, their anticipated return to their jobs at a vocational school in Tacoma on Monday did not materialize, prompting their families to file a missing persons report. It was highly uncharacteristic of the couple not to inform friends or family of their whereabouts, leaving loved ones puzzled by their sudden disappearance. 4 days later, on August 14th, a group of hikers traversing Pierce County stumbled upon a harrowing sight. Harkins' lifeless body lay near a secluded campsite, bearing a fatal gunshot wound to the head. The manner in which his body was found, still enveloped in a sleeping bag, suggested a chilling scenario. Harkins had likely been killed in his sleep. Adding to the tragedy, nearby searchers uncovered the lifeless body of the couple's pet dog, also felled by gunfire. The grim discoveries fueled speculation within law enforcement circles that these killings might be linked to the earlier abduction and murder of Edward Smith and Kimberly Diane Levine. They were a couple from Kent, Washington, whose bodies were discovered in a gravel pit near the Columbia River earlier that same year in March 1985. Fast forward to October 26th, when another unsettling development unfolded. A skull was unearthed at the terminus of 8th Avenue South near Hart's Lake, approximately 1.5 miles away from where Harkins' remains were found. Dental records swiftly confirmed the identity of the skull as belonging to Ruth Cooper. Just 2 days later, on October 28th, Cooper's body, along with her purse, was found nearby in the same area, a mere 50 feet from where her skull had been discovered. The scene was devoid of clothing or personal belongings, save for Ruth's handbag, leaving investigators baffled by the circumstances surrounding her death. Strangely, a tube sock was found tightly wound around Cooper's neck, indicative of the gruesome circumstances of her demise, although the initial autopsy suggested Cooper succumbed to, quote, homicidal violence. A subsequent investigation of her remains revealed she had fallen victim to a gunshot wound to the abdomen. The discovery of Cooper's remains prompted a renewed effort by law enforcement, with the murders being publicized by Crime Stoppers in hopes of eliciting information that would lead to the apprehension of the perpetrators. The investigation yielded more questions than answers, and in later years, with the internet offering scant information and much of that information mere speculation. Despite publicizing the case in hopes of gathering crucial information, law enforcement struggled to make significant headway. With no concrete leads and lingering uncertainties, the mysteries surrounding these tragic events remain unresolved, leaving a community haunted by lingering questions and the specter of violence lurking among the shadows. Another tragic chapter began to unfold over a month after Ruth Cooper's discovery. On December 12, 1985, Mike RIEMER, age 36, along with his girlfriend Diana Robertson, age 21, and their 2-year-old daughter, Crystal Robertson, set out on a journey from their Tacoma residence to Pierce County. The pair had known each other since Diana was 17. Mike held a year-round roofing job, but also engaged in fur trapping during the winter months. Venturing into the picturesque southern Pierce County forest, a popular destination for outdoor enthusiasts, they hoped to procure a Christmas tree on this trip. But the serene outing would soon turn into a harrowing tale of mystery and despair. Mike, who had spent approximately 15 prior years as an animal trapper, also had plans to check his animal traps scattered along an 8-mile expanse of the Nisqually River between Interstate 5 and LB Washington, adding a practical dimension to their outing that day. However, their peaceful outing took a chilling turn when later that evening, customers at a Kmart store, situated approximately 30 miles north in Spanaway, were startled to find the couple's young daughter, Crystal, standing alone outside the store entrance that same afternoon. She appeared bewildered and silent, with her parents nowhere in sight. Molly Coach, the store's assistant manager, broadcasted an announcement over the intercom regarding the discovery of a lost child. She recalls how unusual it was that Crystal did not shed tears, given that most children her age would typically cry after being separated from their parents for such a duration. Molly escorted Crystal to the toy department and tried to comfort her by familiarizing her with the store's surroundings. However, despite her efforts, Crystal walked throughout the entire store without uttering a single word. Following a medical examination at a nearby hospital, Crystal was placed in temporary foster care. Shortly thereafter, Crystal and her parents were reported missing, and 2 days later, a nurse from the hospital identified Crystal from a news broadcast photograph detailing her family's disappearance. With her parents gone, Crystal was placed into the care of Diana's mother, Louise Conrad. Upon seeing Louise, Crystal reached out her arms, affectionately calling her grandma, and rushed into her embrace. Since that day, Louise has been caring for Crystal. When questioned about her mother's whereabouts, the distressed 2-year-old responded with a haunting phrase, stating that her, quote, "mommy was in the trees." Despite her tender age, investigators found her too young to provide substantial information, leaving them grasping for answers in the darkness of uncertainty. Louise observed that Crystal underwent a noticeable change in personality following her discovery. Whenever questioned about her parents, Crystal would adopt a blank stare and exhibit signs of unhappiness. Louise suspects that Crystal may have witnessed or been aware of something significant that happened to her parents. A massive search effort ensued, involving both ground patrols and aerial reconnaissance, as authorities scoured the area for any trace of RIEMER'S red 1982 Plymouth pickup truck. Despite their exhaustive efforts, the search yielded no fruitful leads. Mike's close friend, Steve Tew, also conducted thorough ground and aerial searches, commencing from the typical starting point of Mike's trap lines and spanning the entire route to LB. Despite his efforts, no traces of Mike were uncovered. Meanwhile, Mike's father, Lloyd Riemer, a retired state game warden, organized multiple search missions in the areas frequented by Mike for trapping. Simultaneously, relatives and friends scoured the roads adjacent to the Nisqually River. Despite their collective endeavors, no substantial leads were unearthed. Lloyd enlisted the assistance of a private investigator who identified a witness claiming to have sighted Mike's truck in the Kmart parking lot between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. on the day of Mike and Diana's disappearance. However, this revelation yielded no further clues. Then, on February 18, 1986, over 2 agonizing months after the couple's disappearance, a grim discovery shook the community once again. Diana Robertson's lifeless body was found, partially concealed by snow, by a passing motorist near a logging road off Washington State Route 7, just south of Elbay. Crystal's assertion about her mother being in the trees proved accurate. Diana was found nude from the waist up, bearing 17 stab wounds, with a tube sock knotted around her neck. An autopsy later confirmed the grisly extent of Robertson's fate. She had been brutally stabbed 17 times, mirroring the horrific violence inflicted on previous victims. Like Ruth Cooper before her, Robertson was also found with a tube sock bound around her neck, a macabre signature that added to the chilling similarities between the cases. It was presumed she had been at the location since her disappearance. However, no sign of Mike was unearthed, compounded by the challenging search conditions posed by several inches of snow. Despite traversing the logging road multiple times during their search efforts, Mike's family had overlooked it, presuming Mike didn't typically place traps in that area. Upon learning about Diana's discovery, Lloyd speculated that Mike might also be situated nearby. However, extensive searches utilizing bloodhounds yielded no trace of him, leaving Lloyd perplexed about where to direct their efforts. Steve shared Lloyd's belief that Mike would likely be found in close proximity. He remained convinced that foul play had befallen both of them and maintained his conviction that Mike had met his demise. He emphasized the unresolved questions surrounding the case. The tragic find unleashed a flurry of investigative activity, with bloodhounds deployed to scour the area for any further evidence. Buried in the snow not far from Diana's body was Mike's pickup truck, adding another layer of intrigue to the unfolding mystery. Further examination of the truck revealed telltale signs of violence, with bloodstains marring the seat. Detective David Nazer of the Lewis County Sheriff's Department noted that some characteristics of the blood had deteriorated due to exposure to the elements over 2 months. Consequently, they were unable to ascertain the blood type, although they confirmed it was human. Inside the vehicle, authorities discovered a poignant note on the dashboard bearing the words "I love you, Diana," scrawled on a simple manila envelope. Diana's mother identified the handwriting as Mike's, deepening the mystery surrounding their disappearance. Louise attributed the handwriting to Mike, drawing on comparisons with cards he had given Diana on various holidays. She asserted that the signature on the cards matched that on the envelope. However, Detective Nazer revealed that the FBI laboratory couldn't definitively confirm the handwriting as Mike's. Detective Nazer found the envelope intriguing and pondered its significance. Was it a heartfelt farewell from Mike to Diana, expressing remorse? Or was it strategically placed by someone else to mislead investigators? With Mike's inexplicable disappearance, suspicions naturally turned towards him as a prime suspect in Diana's murder. The theory emerged that he may have callously abandoned his daughter at the Kmart store before fleeing the scene. However, investigators struggled to ascertain a clear motive for Mike to commit such a heinous act against his partner. Some even speculated that Mike himself may have been a victim of the same elusive killer responsible for the deaths of Harkins, Cooper, and now Diana. 2 theories surfaced regarding these incidents. The 2 theories that emerged regarding the multiple killings, and they would be: some individuals speculated that an unidentified serial killer might have been responsible for both sets of killings. This theory is supported by the similarities between the murders of Stephen Harkins and Ruth Cooper and the disappearance of Mike and the murder of Diana. Both couples were found in wooded areas, with the female victims having tube socks tied around their necks. The geographic proximity of the 2 sets of crimes further fueled speculation that they could be linked. However, it seems that these were the only 2 seemingly linked murders, and they could find no other murders that seemed similar to these having been reported in the months and years that followed. Another theory suggested that Mike RIEMER himself could have been the serial killer responsible for the murders. This theory is based on Mike's history of domestic violence against Diana, his possessiveness and jealousy as described by his friend Steve. Diana had expressed fears to her sister about Mike's threats to kill her, indicating a potential motive. Mike's violent behavior, including the domestic assault incident shortly before Diana's murder, raised suspicions about his capability to commit such crimes. Mike and Diana's relationship was marked by a history of domestic violence, as recounted by her friends and family. Police records documented at least 2 instances of domestic disturbance between them. A pivotal incident occurred just 2 months before Diana's death, on October 19, 1985, when Mike was apprehended for domestic assault and malicious damage. Allegedly, he forcibly entered Diana's apartment, threw her to the ground, and rubbed her face against the carpet, leaving visible red marks on her nose and eye. Darlene, Diana's sister, expressed disbelief at the frequency and severity of Mike's abuse. She described how Mike would direct his anger towards Diana, blaming her for his actions and justifying his behavior even when it was unwarranted. Despite Mike's violent tendencies, Diana often allowed him back into her life. Darlene speculated that Diana may have reconciled with Mike out of concern for Crystal or for a sense of security. Louise suggested that Diana's affection for Mike might have motivated her decision to reunite with him. Detective Nazer underscored the unfortunate reality of victims returning to their abusers, shedding light on the complexity of the situation. Lloyd noted that Mike consistently carried a .22 caliber handgun when tending to his trap lines. Notably, Stephen's demise also involved a .22 caliber weapon. Although there is circumstantial evidence that could lead to a warrant for Mike's arrest in connection with Diana's murder, a significant legal obstacle remains. The police cannot confirm his vital status, whether he is alive or deceased. Detective Nazer emphasizes that proving Mike's death would imply the existence of an unidentified perpetrator committing murders in the wilderness. Conversely, if evidence surfaces proving Mike is alive, he would instantly transition into a prime suspect, drastically altering the investigation. Steve acknowledges Mike's propensity for jealousy and confrontation, but doubts he would resort to murder. Diana confided in Louise about Mike's threats, but Louise initially dismissed them as mere intimidation tactics. Lloyd contends that there are compelling indications of Mike's innocence. He argues that Mike wouldn't have willingly left his coat in his truck during freezing weather and snowfall, as it would have been impractical. Moreover, Lloyd highlights that Mike had no funds on him when he vanished, evidenced by his unclaimed paycheck and untouched bank account. On the day he disappeared, Mike expressed his intention to check his traps promptly to ensure his work schedule for the upcoming weekend. Lloyd speculates that someone else, likely the perpetrator, intercepted Mike before he could carry out his plans. Notably, since his disappearance, Mike has made no attempt to reach out to Crystal or his other daughter from a previous relationship, despite conjectures from some who knew him suggesting sightings of Mike post Diana's murder. The police remain determined to locate him. Mike's proficiency in outdoor survival skills, his occupation as a roofer, and his talent as a guitar player suggest he could be living off the grid, though suspicion lingered over Mike's involvement in Diana's murder. There's also compelling evidence that he may be a victim himself. Until Mike or his remains are found, this perplexing case will remain unresolved. Consideration has been given to whether the following victims fell prey to the same perpetrator as the initial ones, though it remains a topic of debate. Edward Smith and Kimberly Diane Law Vine seem to have their lives planned out. Both graduates from college in 1984, they were flourishing as government accountants and preparing for their upcoming wedding. On March 9, 1985, the couple embarked on a weekend getaway in Grant County. Smith's lifeless body was discovered the next day in a gravel pit, his hands bound and throat slashed. Vine's body was found that same month, coinciding with the discovery of Harkins and Cooper. However, Billy Ray Ballard Jr. was charged and convicted for their murders and is currently serving a life sentence, while some speculate about potential links to the tube sock killings. The absence of a tube sock in Ballard's guilty plea suggests otherwise. Nonetheless, uncertainties linger. Following the murders, the case gradually grew cold due to insufficient evidence and a dearth of leads. Despite increased media coverage and community efforts to raise awareness, law enforcement lacked substantial leads to pursue. However, a significant breakthrough occurred on March 26, 2011. Hikers stumbled upon a partial skull, later identified as belonging to Mike RIEMER. These remains were discovered within a mile of where Diana's body had been found almost 3 decades earlier. Subsequent police efforts uncovered additional remains, including a lower jawbone with teeth, a rubber boot, and scattered clothing fragments. By April of 2011, forensic analysis confirmed the identity of the remains as Mike's through dental records. Additionally, a worn identification card was found nearby, yet its connection to Mike remains unknown. Despite exhaustive investigations, no further traces of Mike have surfaced, and the exact cause of his death remains elusive, with a gunshot wound to the head being ruled out. Notably, his firearm was never located. According to the hiker who made the discovery, the skull exhibited a conspicuous large hole in its side, prompting authorities to consider the possibility of Mike being a homicide victim. Speculation arose regarding the involvement of an unidentified serial killer, possibly responsible for all 4 deaths. In November 2011, detectives forwarded DNA evidence collected from the crime scenes to the Washington State Patrol Crime Lab for analysis. Additionally, they divulged a detailed description of the sock found wrapped around Diana's neck, a white, stretchy, knee-high basketball sock measuring approximately 3 feet in length, adorned with dark navy blue rings around the top. When recovered, the sock was tied in multiple knots around her neck. The last known sighting of Mike was at Lloyd's house on the morning of his disappearance, accompanied by Crystal, but without Diana. Additionally, a remarkable discovery, a tree growing through Mike's skull, led investigators to deduce that his demise likely coincided with his disappearance. As we delve into the perplexing mysteries surrounding these cases, it becomes evident that Mike's troubled history and the circumstances of his disappearance raise numerous questions. Could a heated argument in the woods between Mike and Diana have escalated into a fatal altercation driven by rage? Some speculate that Mike, overwhelmed by guilt, may have devised a plan to protect his daughter Crystal before returning to the scene to end his own life. However, the absence of a gunshot wound on the skull and the lack of a murder weapon near the scene leave room for doubt, suggesting the involvement of a potential third party. Online speculation abounds, with theories ranging from an attempt to frame Mike for the murders to the possibility of a serial killer targeting couples in the area. The murders of Ruth and Stephen, seemingly unrelated to Mike and Diana's case, add further complexity. Were they victims of a random attack, or was there a calculated motive behind their deaths? Despite the uncertainty, it's clear that whoever perpetrated these crimes displayed a brazenness and methodical approach, suggesting the involvement of an experienced individual. The possibility of a serial killer, adept at evading detection by altering their modus operandi, cannot be discounted. Now I turn to you, the viewers, for your insights and perspectives. Do you believe these cases are interconnected, or are they merely coincidental? Your thoughts are invaluable as we seek to unravel the truth behind these chilling events. I hope you enjoyed this video and are enjoying the videos on my channel. My name is Vince, and if possible, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'll be posting new videos at least once a week. Clicking the little bell will send you a notification when a new video is posted. In the meantime, I invite you to watch one of my other 2 videos on your screen. Thank you.